Obviously, with all this Matt Gaetz stuff kicking off, uh, probably need to understand a little bit about what's going on. Now, to be honest, I have not been like following this guy, and I don't really 100% know everything that's been going on, except for like kind of like background noise. Not a fanboy up until this point. I saw him a few times on Tim Pool. Seemed to be trying to come across as kind of a bro and everything else like that. Don't know what to make of him. The only thing I could really say is I knew the media didn't like him, and that was really about it. Now, here's where one of my biases kicks in, and it kicks in pretty hard. So when this guy ends up getting nominated, all of a sudden, all of mainstream legacy media goes. It's like, okay, that's my first indicator that maybe we don't understand everything we need to know here. And then, of course, when we see a bunch of old school progressive elite establishment Republicans going harumph harumph, he's not our kind of person. Well, then my biases kick in. I said, well, maybe a lot of what we hear about him is BS. So let's find out, huh? Okay, so we're going to talk about the criminal allegations in this video, and I'm going to probably do a second follow up talking about his philosophical leanings, which again, I'm not 100% sure I know where he goes on things, but there's some interesting stuff out there, so we'll see that. So, the first question is, does Matt Gaetz have criminal charges against him? The answer is no. Matt Gaetz does not have criminal charges against him and did not ever have criminal charges against him. Essentially, there was a federal investigation into sex trafficking allegations that was concluded without any charges. So, where did this federal investigation stem from? Well, there was an investigation into what's called a close associate of Matt Gaetz, named Joel Greenberg, who was the Seminole County tax collector. Greenberg was indicted on a variety of charges, including sex trafficking of a child, wire fraud, and other financial crimes. His case came under scrutiny when he was found to have misused his office, engaged in fraudulent activities, and had sexual encounters with minors. Again, this is all Greenberg. Greenberg ended up making a plea deal with the federal prosecutors, saying he would help with the investigation, which included providing information about Matt Gaetz. So, has the federal investigation ended? Yes. In February of 23, the Justice Department informed Gaetz and his legal team that they had decided not to pursue criminal charges against him. Sources indicated that the decision had been influenced by concerns over the credibility of the key witnesses. So, who instigated the ethics investigation in Congress? Well, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Now, you might remember back when he basically stepped up to be Speaker of the House under agreement that essentially any single person in the House could call a no confidence vote on him. Well, the person who called the no confidence vote on him was Matt Gaetz. So there's, and this isn't absolutely established, but they do believe that Kevin McCarthy played a role in the context of the political maneuvering and retaliatory actions following the political battles over the Speaker of the House, particularly after Gaetz was involved in McCarthy's ouster as Speaker. So, what are the charges that the Ethics Committee has leveled? Well, one was sexual misconduct, sex with a minor, illicit drug use, non specified, acceptance of improper gifts, dispensing of special privileges and favors, obstruction of government investigations. They also had two other charges they dropped: misuse of state identification records and conversion of campaign funds for personal use. So, one question I had was, did the girl ever testify or come forward, or was she ever identified? The 17-year-old girl at the center of the allegations against him did testify to the House Ethics Committee. Sources confirmed that she testified before the committee, but her actual testimony is sealed, if I understand it correctly. She confirmed that she alleged she had sex with Gaetz and that she was 17 at the time. Her identity has been protected, which I think in this case is fair. So the question then would be, does any of the evidence indicate that Gaetz knew what her age was? And at best, this is circumstantial. Greenberg, the guy who essentially fingered Matt Gaetz in the first place, pardon the expression, I guess, admitted to knowing her age. He claimed that Gaetz did as well. Gaetz claims he claimed he did not know her age, or he has never stated one way or the other. So he may have essentially not answered the question. So this may have a lot to do with why the charges were dropped, whereas they probably said, okay, yep, it did happen, but there's no way to prove that Gaetz actually knew what her age was. And just to understand that the laws in Florida are written in such a way that if you, I forget the exact word they use in the legal proceedings, but essentially it's if you basically go to extreme efforts to avoid knowing someone's age, like if you just like ignore very obvious things, the law is written in such a way that you can get indicted, or even if you can't prove you didn't know, if you should have known. And obviously, this didn't meet the test to that point. So now there's this other weird thing that goes along with the story. There's an initial story about someone trying to extort money from the Gaetz family. Essentially, according to Gaetz, a former, and because I say according to Gaetz, because the extortion attempt actually did occur because there were arrests. He claimed a former Department of Justice official was involved, and it ultimately ended up netting a Florida land developer or real estate developer. So essentially, this person called the Gaetz family demanding $25 million to make the allegations of sex trafficking and other legal issues against him disappear, asserting that they had evidence that would, basically bury Gaetz. The scheme was actually called Project Homecoming, where Alfred, and he's the gentleman who's the land developer, the one who extorted, and others allegedly tried to extort money from Don Gaetz, who is Matt Gaetz' father, under the guise of freeing Robert Levinson, a former FBI agent who disappeared in Iran. The proposal included a promise of a presidential pardon for Matt Gaetz if his father funded this effort with $25 million. The Gaetz family cooperated with the FBI, including wearing wires that led to the arrest of the extortionists. Important question to ask is, what legal standard does the ethics committee use for essentially charging someone? Well, they use preponderance of evidence and clear and convincing evidence, whereas our court system uses the not beyond a reasonable doubt standard. So let's sum this up. By the way, that's Matt Gaetz' father there. To sum up, it does seem like he did have sex with the 17-year-old, but that the details of it are sketchy enough that the Department of Justice decided not to charge him. Most likely because there would probably be no way of ever actually proving that he knew she was 17. Now, the extortion plot is kind of interesting. So essentially, somebody claims to have evidence of the crime you are being investigated for. So if you know you are guilty, do you meet the extortionist demands in hopes that the problem is mitigated? Or do you gamble and hope the extortionist has nothing? So remember, this extortionist said, "Yeah, we'll bury you unless you cough up the money," and they went straight to the FBI. So either they're making a long term, or they're making a big gamble, assuming the extortionist has nothing, or they didn't think there was anything to be had because they believed they were innocent. Okay, so the ethics committee probe may have stemmed from Gaetz derailing Kevin McCarthy's speaker job. The ethics committee has a much lower bar than a court for a conviction. And one other thing I thought I would mention is that this is Matt Gaetz' wife pictured here. He was not married when this happened. He'd actually been a long-term bachelor. I think there's a solid 10 years difference between their ages. But this is his current wife. And again, they were not married when this all happened. Their engagement came out like right after the allegations became public. All right. So in the comment section below, how much of this have you heard? Is there something that needs to be expanded upon? Like I didn't get all the information here. I just meant this to be kind of a quick outline, broad brush of what's going on. What do you think in general? Is the fact that the media and the establishment are circling up around him sign that there's really something going on here, or is they just don't want this guy in there for their reasons? Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithms brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, check out my other titles. I get into a lot of things. You'll probably find something you like. Subscribe. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.